Welcome back to the podcast, guys. We have an extra special guest here, Miles, Cars and Miles. Thanks for joining us, man.
Absolutely, man. I'm just good to be here.
Appreciate it. We also got our general collective of gentlemen on the side.
Ahoy!
This is our first ever episode that we actually got a guest, and we're excited to have him here. We have some questions for him. If you're not familiar with his content, you should go watch it. It's great. Also having to do with cars. I would love to chat, Miles. Just like tell us what it is that you do for those who don't know.
Uh, well, car videos, basically, same as Jackson. I would say the most popular content I've made has been surrounding just buying different cars at different price points, particularly used cars. So I give recommendations on like what's the best car to buy at 10,000 or 30,000, or maybe if you only have $500, I'll see what I can find for you. But hoping to get more into actual car reviews this year, and I do occasional news stuff as well, and kind of all over the place. But anything that I really find interesting in the automotive world.
Fair enough. Yeah, very similar. It's fun to watch. You do a good job. You have very high production value compared to me. You're very good with the cameras.
Yeah, so I mean, my background is in tech reviews. That's what I basically spent a decade doing before jumping into the car stuff. So in that sector of content creation, it's kind of a necessity that you know, are at least competent with the camera. So that skill kind of just carried over.
Fair enough. No, you said you had questions.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
guess we'll just dive right into questions.
Yeah, definitely. I think it segues perfectly into your introduction. I just want to know a little bit about you. Like, how'd you get into cars at first? I mean, I know you started doing tech reviews for like content creation, but how'd you actually start getting into cars? Like, were you a kid, young kid, or like recent?
I mean, I'd say like my deep enthusiasm for cars has been like more recent, like the past 2, 3 years. But I've always had a general interest in cars. My dad used to work at GM when he was around my age, and he's been a big car fan and enthusiast. And I think a lot of that just rubbed off over onto me over the years. And I think once I actually started driving and wanted to get into my car, that's when things kind of really just took off. But I've always been an appreciator of cars for sure.
Nice.
On that topic, what car do you drive?
Yeah, I actually don't know this.
What is the car that is with Miles?
Well, the car that is with Miles, at least for the next 2 days, is a currently broken E93 3 Series. I had a minor fender bender like nearly a month ago now. It's been like 2 or 3 weeks. So the front end has left the chat basically. So it's still drivable, and I have to take it in to get it repaired. And so I'm gonna spend the next month driving a bunch of other cars that I'm gonna be reviewing, because that's gonna be in for the shop. And then I'm plotting on an M3 that I'm probably gonna get in the next like month or so.
Are you to buy?
Nice.
Yes.
Looking at an E92, E93, something like that, or
What? Yeah, what, John?
Yeah, I mean, same gen, because I mean, I pretty much fell in love with the E90 chassis in general, especially mine. It hasn't really given me any problems, and I know the M3 is a different beast in terms of reliability, but I love the way it drives. I also love the way it looks. I think there's plenty of modability, and it's a nice balance between analog and modern. You know, throw a CarPlay module in there, and you can pretty much use it like a lot of other modern cars. So. Yeah.
Are you a E90 or E92 type guy? Are you a sedan or a coupe?
I mean, I don't really need a sedan, so I prefer the coupe. I mean, I wouldn't mind the sedan, but is on the M3 end of things, the sedans are just so hard to find in like good condition, and for like a good price, the sedans are just are going up. So
It's crazy.
coupe for me.
The E9, like all those, that generation of M3 is like blowing up in value. And I know that if you got like a no nav slick top manual,
Oh,
like
yeah.
this
Compact,
heat
yeah,
cloth
yeah.
seats, like whatever the most basic
stripper
version is,
spec, they call it.
that's the one to get. Like those are the ones that are really shooting up in value. That's a good lesson to learn for like cars. If you're trying to invest in a car, you want whatever has the least stuff that will age in it.
Yeah.
Like no nav. Those, like I have a huge issue with all those old navigation systems like that. They're just so, I don't know.
Terrible.
They don't work at all.
Yeah. Like you were
Yeah,
saying,
I mean,
sorry.
Yeah, I pretty much just use it for like streaming like Bluetooth music at this point, and I have a CarPlay module that my dad had in one of his 5 series that he also like wrecked over the summer. I guess we both had like bad luck with accidents in the past year, but I just haven't thrown it in yet. Planning in to throw it in the M3, but yeah, I agree. I follow this Instagram page called M3 List, and every day I just see like all of these like slick top, no nav, manual trans versions going for like 50, 60, like
That's
with low mileage,
crazy.
maybe 70 grand. It's crazy.
What's the new G80 cost? Like,
90.
yeah.
95.
So it's not even that incredibly far off.
You can get a good E90 still in the 30s, like high 20s, low 30s.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
E92, E90.
Yeah, yeah.
They're findable. You
Yeah.
just
The
gotta look
prices
hard.
are rough. Like the whole car market. Apparently, like prices should be going down sometime
are a little
soon. That's
bit.
what everybody's saying, but not for stuff like that. Obviously,
Yeah.
that stuff is gonna like
That's
demand
those
a
were
premium.
already kind of high beforehand, to be honest. So
Yeah, I think overall, like, used car and new car prices will go down, generally speaking, but like enthusiast cars will just continue to go up. That, like, once they go up, I don't think there's any coming back.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
But let's jump back to you. So from tech reviews to car reviews, what got you into like the tech space originally? Like, what got you into making videos about that?
So I remember I was about in like 6th grade. I wanted a PlayStation Vita for Christmas. But I wasn't really a gamer compared to like my 2 siblings who are like actual gamers. And I think my dad knew this. So instead, he got me this little, it wasn't a phone, but it wasn't a tablet either. It looked like a phone. But it ran Android. It was called a Samsung Galaxy Player. And from there, I just learned to just like play with Android. And I found this website where you could basically like, it's the Android equivalent for jailbreaking, basically, where you would install custom software on there and just like, tweak and mod it. And so I started making little videos on that just to basically post to the forum site that I was finding all this software on, and then they'd get like a few thousand hits at a time. Kept doing that, and then it kind of just evolved into general consumer electronics reviews, and from there I worked with like a few different like decently sized like tech publications and became a full-blown tech head basically.
That's sick. And then I don't know if you said, but like, what's the like? How did the jump to cars happen from that? Like, what made you go, oh, I want to go like now start a car page?
I mean, I think it was really just after me getting my car, just like falling in love with automotive content. There's so many great car channels out there, and um, yeah, I was. It really wasn't like anything specific. I got into it, and I think I also just got a little jaded with tech reviews, at least doing it for my own, because I also actually work for Marques Brownlee, who's basically the biggest tech reviewer on the planet. So I'm still heavily involved with it on a day-to-day basis, but as far as making my own content, I kind of got over it. So the car stuff is fresh, it's fun, it's a new challenge as far as breaking into this space.
There's a lot of tech involved too, obviously, with cars. Like something I definitely wanted to like bring up with all you guys was CES is obviously going on. I think it's still going on. You probably know better than me, Miles. But
Yeah, I mean, it basically just ended.
just ended.
Basically.
Gotcha. But they revealed a lot of new like car features and all these different products that are crazy, like the revolution of car technology. And there's been a lot of backlash to like a good amount of it, mostly with BMW and the new like iVision D.
Yeah, so it's funny you say that. I actually just recorded a short for that. That's going to be going up in the next day or so, talking about it. It's quite the funky.
Yeah,
car.
what do you guys? I don't know if you guys have all. I know you've probably seen it. I never know what Noah's looking at, but
never know with
I don't keep track. But it's
It could be anything.
BMW made this new concept car that they allegedly say might come out in 2024. I don't really know, or some of the features might come out. But it has all the panels can change color, like it's as if the like color changing paint. I'm not sure the tech behind it.
well, they
And
also
then-
they also showed that in the iX too, though. Like
They did,
6
yeah.
months ago. So they've been working on that for a while.
They've been messing with that, which
Yeah.
I think that's generally a cool feature. We
Yeah, I
can
think
talk
it's
about
cool.
it. But then all the screens on the inside can also be used for like augmented reality. So you could like play a video game sitting in a parking lot.
Have you guys seen that video that BMW did? It was like a racing game, but they had an M2 in a parking lot, and they put people in the M2
Yep.
with like all like the windows like off and like a VR headset on, and you could drive the car, and you're driving around like an empty parking lot, but in your vision, it looks like you're driving it on like this crazy outer space racetrack.
That's
That's
cool.
awesome.
They've been working with a lot of like
Yeah,
crazy
that's awesome.
augmented reality stuff in regards to both in their cars.
Well, a car just flew by our window honking its horn.
Yeah, guaranteed.
But yeah, no, there's that tech is cool. Like honestly, like all the tech that they're showing off at these events is really interesting, but I don't really know if it belongs on a car in my mind. That's kind of where I have
My
problems.
my take is that I think for certain brands like BMW, I think they're leaning so heavy into the tech, and I think it's taking away from what
The car.
we like about BMWs. Like what I basically said in my short is that I think all of the tech and the concept in and of itself is cool, but it's like none of this is why you buy a BMW, right? And so I feel like certain brands are just transforming in ways that are somewhat unnecessary. I think keeping up with what's current and what users need compared to all of the other offerings from Tesla, Lucid, and whatnot is great, but just I feel like some of these brands are overdue.
Yeah.
Totally.
I think that like the BMW Spark has been out since E92 M generation. And that's just my opinion. Like other people will argue differently. But I also think like it's obviously just sort of going with the way the market's going. Like if tech and other car companies increases, BMW has to keep up with that because the fact of the matter is not everybody's enthusiast, and most people don't give a crap about like the drivability really. They just care about the tech and
It's weird, yeah.
features and amenities, and that's like cool for some stuff, but to pound it into their sports cars just makes them number and number, I think, over time.
Like who's gonna go buy a car because the paint changes color? Like like
People
who's
that
gonna
A
run
lot
for
of
the
people
police.
actually, I think.
If you run
I
for the
don't
police,
know.
it could be very useful. We're looking for a red BMW.
No.
button. It's now blue. They're not gonna
Yes.
pull you
How
over.
was the registration? Like, what would the registration
Color.
say?
All.
Color. Yeah, color.
rainbow.
Yeah.
Whenever they feel like it.
Yeah,
RGB.
something that someone pointed out on Twitter was like, yeah, how is this going to work from a legality standpoint? Like registering, what is the car going to be registered as? Like when you look up the VIN, what is it going to say? Like, is it going to be just like black or white or all
Yeah,
the
yeah.
colors, like rainbow? Like, how's that going to work?
Color
It's
shift.
yeah,
it
it's
says.
like no, that is like really super weird.
Oh,
They're
no.
probably gonna make you pay like $1,200 a month to unlock that feature. It won't even
No,
matter.
it's
Yeah, let's not get
$100
started
to
on the
change color
subscription
every time,
services.
you know?
Oh, they charge
Or
you per
you,
color
like-
change.
Eventually, it'll be like you can download different colors that like your current paint has like chips that like change color, but you have to download it.
In the
Like,
police
load it
chase, like
on.
you're in a police chase, and the augmented reality screen will show you like GTA stars, and it won't let you change color while you're in a police chase. I don't know. All this tech, you're the right person to talk to about tech in cars, because I was just talking to somebody recently and saying how all this like trying to create a car into a tech product, like what BMW is doing with this iVision D, what happens? It's too new a thing. We don't know yet, but what happens with like the used car market? Like if you go to buy a used Tesla, it's going to be a piece of crap.
It's just like any modern car. Modern cars aren't built to last anymore.
Yeah.
Even just
It
since like
sucks.
2010, they really aren't making cars to last anymore because cars have become more and more consumable.
100%.
It's just like, just as a general statement, I mean, not only do a lot of people have a lot more money, but it's more common for people just to lease cars, buy cars, keep them for a few years. Like cars built in the 70s, 80s, 90s, those cars were meant to last 10 years under the same owner, 20 years under the same owner, whatever it was,
Yeah.
because not only were cars not evolving as fast, but it's just like that's what people did with cars. But now it's common for people to keep cars for a year and get rid of them. So they've just become consumables, kind of like an iPhone or a computer. And that's just also what happens with technology is when it's evolving as fast as it does in like today's age, it becomes outdated so quickly that like all the technology in a 2020, like the brand new 7 Series, for an example, all the screens in that car, all of the computers in that car are going to be so outdated so fast
Yeah.
that no one's going to want to own that car in 10 years because it'll like lag while you're turning it on just because of how computer based it is.
Or it'll steer you into a tree because
Yeah,
it
it's-
glitches out.
I don't know. 'Cause I love technology. I'm very interested in technology. I love cameras. I'm a photographer. I'm a cinematographer, and I love cars. But I hate how connected they've become these days. And I get it. It's just the way the world's going. And like we were saying, to the 99% of consumers, it makes sense. But to people that like owning cars, that fall in love with a car, that want to keep a car for a while, like new cars just really aren't built for that kind of person anymore. No matter where you go to, really.
Yeah. And what?
Yeah, I do heavily agree with that. Like buying like a Toyota with 130,000 miles on it is probably a safer bet than buying a Tesla with
That's
80,000.
That's what I was
miles
literally
on it.
about to say. Like, when's the last time you saw an ad for a car or a car brand that was purely like marketing the simple durability of the vehicle? Like, workhorse lasts 10 years, goes a million miles. Like, the last time I feel like I saw that was old Toyotas.
Yeah.
And like they used to use that as like these things will last a million miles and you will drive it a million miles and it will be affordable, reliable, cheap to maintain. And now it's just like here's the new iPad and then here's the new iPad again. Forget about the old one.
Yeah, let's go
like,
junk all this
yeah.
old stuff that we said was good for the environment. Like,
Volvo,
let's just throw
too.
them all out.
Volvo used to advertise how durable and like long lasting their cars
Yeah.
were.
Speak of steel, bro.
Now you look at like a new XC90 hybrid. That thing looks like it might last 3 years, and then you're screwed when the batteries get messed up and
Even the stuff-
motors. Yeah,
Even the stuff that like you would expect would be like durable and built to last, like a Ford, like built Ford tough, like, you know. But it's the F-150 Lightning is just a tech
Terrible.
product. Like, it's not gonna last all that long. I think you drove one too. They already have issues,
Yeah,
but like this planned obsolescence, like car companies are always gonna do whatever's in their best interest. They like very rarely consider the enthusiast, which is just a shame. But like the planned obsolescence is going too far. Like if we need to be buying new cars every 10 years because they're just not going to last, like
not
is
even 10
a
years
bummer.
at these points. It's also kind of wasteful.
It's
Like,
really wasteful.
On a phone, yeah, phones are small. I mean, it's more to scale, but like a Tesla that's 3 or 4 years old, you get like 100 miles of charge or of range on a charge, and we don't even have the correct infrastructure to recycle those big lithium-ion batteries yet. So they kind of just get put to waste because they're useless, or you have to pay another 20, 30 grand to throw a brand new battery pack in them, and that's like buying another car at that point. So why would you not just trade it in and buy a new car, and then this other one just goes and sits somewhere because there's nothing you can do with them?
Yeah. It's tough. I don't know. It's like I don't think we're good. Like nothing's really going to change it. So it
Yeah,
just
yeah.
sort of is. It's going to have to be mass impact before anything like really gets adjusted.
I think though on this note, I kind of want to like talk about performance too, because like all these car brands now, like especially like BMW, the lap times, the Nordschleife at times are still going down. So they still care about that, but like to what extent could they really be making their cars much faster by like getting rid of some of the tech and focusing on the tech that's like actually gonna improve the car mechanically, you know,
To be
driving
fair,
wise.
the cars that are going around the Nürburgring and like setting records, that is the type of tech where I would say it's moving in the right direction.
Absolutely.
Like the Mercedes AMG, like Project One, like that wouldn't have been able. That like is the pinnacle of engineering and tech.
It was like 5 years ago when they came up with the idea.
Yeah. It takes a while to act on the idea, but you know, like there's some tech that I think is good, and there's like overdoing it. There's a balance that they need to find with adding in new tech. Like I'm all for like Apple CarPlay in cars, like you were saying, Miles. Like that updates a car immensely. Like, I honestly don't now like driving cars that don't. If there's gonna be a screen, like I really hope there's Apple CarPlay. Just makes life simpler. But there's also some tech that's just completely unnecessary and just like dilutes the product.
That also just brings to the point is like, when tech makes a car faster, does it make it better? And I think for me at least, I completely disagree. I don't care how fast a car is around a track very much. I'm not the best driver in the world. I'd rather a car, like I know I could go around a track faster in an AMG 1 than I could in a Carrera GT. But if you gave me the keys to both of them and said, which one are you going to take around a track? I'm not taking the AMG 1 any day of the week.
Yeah, of course.
So it's like, as cool as it is that lap times are getting faster and faster, and even like we were saying with like putting technology in cars, the cars that are doing the lap times are the cars that don't have as much technology, like an M4 CSL. They put all the effort into making that car fast in the racetrack, but then they make like 300 of them, and they
Yeah,
all go
exactly.
for 100 grand over. So it's like it's still not even the cool cars are becoming less and less attainable because there's so few of them. So any car company that comes out with a real enthusiast focused car, you get a GR Corolla, people are going to be asking 90 grand over sticker for those when they come out.
Yeah.
The 400Z they were selling for over 100 grand. So it's like
That's crazy.
It's hard to afford these cars that you might want if you want a brand new car, which is why like we were talking about initially, just to kind of bring it full circle, why cars like your E92 M3 that you're looking for are getting so expensive is because they're a dying breed, really.
Yeah, I think a great example of that is the new C63. I got to talk to a few people who've driven it, and it's been pretty much nothing but like just disappointment. It's faster, but only in certain increments. Like you're not getting that 670 horsepower, whatever it is, like 100% of the time. It is faster than the previous generations, but like it doesn't feel anywhere near as fun from what I've heard, which makes me so sad because the C63, the
I have one of those and I loved
W204,
it so much.
yeah, I've gotten to drive one a handful of times, and it's one
So
of the
good.
most fun cars I've
So
I've
good.
ever driven.
If only it
Like,
was manual.
easily.
That's the
Yeah,
one.
yeah, that's
we
always
talked
the,
about
the
that.
kicker.
I am a manual enthusiast till death, but I did love owning that car. It was just such a hooligan, and like the transmission was kind of goofy, and I didn't even care just
It's
because
always
dumb
shredding
the car
tires,
was.
though.
Yeah,
There's
that's
no-
the thing. It's just it's such a dumb car, but manufacturers don't make dumb cars anymore. Every car is meant to be perfect. It's meant to be even like that, which is what kind of brings the point of like the performance being so good. The car is meant to be perfect no matter who's driving it, which makes it less fun because the new C63, it's all-wheel drive. It's got EQ boost. There's no lag
uncrashable.
between shifts. It's like it's not as uncrashable. It's just like it goes where you point it. My C63, you pointed it in one direction. It was like, nah, I want to go over there at those trees.
It goes
and that's
the other.
fun. That's what makes a car fun.
That's true. I want a car that was like, I want a company to make a bad decision and build something just like,
Yeah.
we're not making money on this.
Yeah.
That's when the greatest things are made.
Like the
When they're like,
LFA.
we did this because we wanted to. It makes absolutely no sense to anybody,
Yeah.
but it's sick and we like it, and it's gonna probably kill you when you drive it, but it's gonna be fun until you hit the tree.
Yeah, I think like even like you brought up transmissions, like I drove the new M4 recently, and like it's a cool car, but like when you're shifting gears, it's like you barely feel anything, and like a lot of people like to rag on, like for example the Aventador's
Dude, E-gear is-
transmission, but when I drove the Aventador, like feeling the shift and feeling like feels like you're
Yeah.
loading a gun. It's like it kicks you, and it's like
Forza mode on
that's
an
fun.
Aventador
Like
is
it's
wild. It's
Bro,
like
those-
something I've never experienced.
Yeah. Those single clutch transmissions, like they have a little gap. Even SMG
Yeah.
was not
Oh my
too
gosh,
bad.
yeah.
Like people hate SMG, but at the same time, like if you know how to drive SMG well, it's actually not bad at
You
all.
do a CSL tune on it too. it's
SMG
fire,
is
yeah.
great if you are driving at 100%. Like it is it's so
But
aggressive.
then again,
Yeah.
same with E-gear. Like I was in Frankie's Superleggera like
Yeah.
a couple months back, and like first gear is the most finicky thing in that car. Like it revs up, it stalls out. You're like, and it's basically like learning to drive a manual. But
That's what
like,
people say
the
about
ca-
SMGs,
Yeah,
too.
the
Yeah.
car
Yeah.
is just learning
it's like
for
bucking
you.
a
Yeah,
little,
exactly.
when you're like not getting it at the
He had
perfect
to
RPM.
like wave out the window like, sorry, you gotta like fire it up again. Of course, the thing was bone dry on oil too. So.
Hold on, let me just restart the camera. I was gonna say like I didn't realize that I know that you do more like you're more involved in the car review scene. So you've driven a bunch of cars. What's the craziest car you've driven?
craziest.
Or like what was your favorite car to drive?
Honestly, I think it. So I used to do part-time video work at this shop called Fluid Motor Union, which is
Oh, that
in
is
the-
so good. Their exhausts are insane. The guy that we were just talking about has the full fluid motor union setup on it. It sounds
okay.
nuts.
That's awesome. Yeah. So if you know where that shop is, it's basically so if you've heard of like Hamilton Collection, like guys like that bring their cars into those lots every day. So I've gotten to drive like things like Ferrari 308s. I've driven a CLK DTM, like just absolutely crazy stuff. But I think probably the most memorable like fun car I've got to drive is probably a W204 C63 that was supercharged, tuned, had an exhaust, the whole
Was
nine
it the
yards.
Weiss Tech Supercharger?
Honestly, I don't remember, but
Yeah, it's so bad.
yeah, but it stayed there for so long just because it was just a horribly unreliable car. It never left the shop, so
Yeah.
that's why I got to drive it so much. And honestly, one of the most fun cars I've ever gotten to drive.
That's awesome.
It's too bad that cars don't have like, I don't know, that aggression anymore. Yeah, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, like, for me, I've driven both a W204 C63 and a bunch of E92 M3s, and almost every time the E92 is better, in my opinion. And I know you're looking for one, so I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that. If you love that Mercedes so much.
Yeah, I mean, I think the M3 is just more me. And it's funny because I've never actually driven an E92 M3. I've been around
that's
them a
funny.
bunch of times, but I haven't actually gotten to drive one yet. And I think that's a sign because I mean, I know the chassis. I've driven like a handful of E90s, so I know the chassis. It's just basically, different suspension setup, and then obviously the engine. So I think it's going to be a special moment when I finally do get behind the wheel of one. But I mean, if money were no object, I'd still probably go E92 M3 versus C63. Like, especially if I could get like the GTS, like that car is.
I'd
I'd have a C63 Black
think
Series
we're
over a
dri-
GTS.
Oh, that's a hot take. I would not. I think that your real moment of truth is gonna be as soon as you get behind the wheel of an E92 M3, you'll be like, yeah, no comparison to the C63, and he'll
They're
argue
different.
against
They're
me.
so different.
He'll argue against me, but like,
E92s are, in my opinion, it's a great car, but it was just a little bit, I don't know. It just felt a little dull compared to the C63 to me. And you can straight pipe them and stuff and make it up. And the reason why I would still choose one over the C63 is because you can get it in a manual.
Yeah, man.
But that's why I wouldn't choose the GTS over a Black Series because it's automatic.
Yeah.
So if I'm choosing the automatic one, I'm choosing the one that speaks to me more. But are you looking at a manual or a DCT?
I want to go DCT just because I want to drive it every day. So I
That's
think
fair.
definitely DCT. But I'm curious, which one do you guys think sounds better? Because I think it's, in my opinion, I think it's easily the E92 by a mile. I mean, I think both sound great, but I think
the E92
It's
is
different. It's different
They're
sounds,
so
really.
different.
But-
But E92 at like high RPM is insane. Like it just sounds ridiculous.
you can be at pretty much all the time.
Just keep
Yeah.
it.
That's always an option in that car, and it's not an option in the Mercedes. And I think that the Mercedes obviously sounds sick, but it always sounds just like to me. Like it doesn't
AMGs.
change from that. Whereas
very
like
growly.
the E92, depending on where you are in the rev range, how much throttle input there is, like downshifts versus upshifts, it's all so different. Like there's such a wide range. Like the way it sounds in a tunnel versus the way it sounds outside of a tunnel. Windows up, windows down, induction, exhaust. There's so much variability in the sound of an E92 M3, and there's not in
It's
a
too slow.
C63.
That's the biggest problem with it for me is it's too slow.
I think modifications though are way above modifications for the Mercedes.
What do you mean?
So like
There's
the
more
mo-
individual
the-
things
Yeah,
you can do.
the modability of
Like what's the difference? Like what would you think would be like a mod you couldn't do to the C63?
Will's just
looking
for a
Well,
way
I'm
to
just-
point out that you're wrong.
I'm just questioning because
He's nitpicking.
I don't know.
you're more in the BMW scene. Like once you own that car, you realize there's a lot you can do to it.
Yeah, I suppose that's true. I guess you
I-
I guess you got me there, but
I don't know. I do love an E92 M3, but like you do have to wring that car out, and that
Yeah.
was the one thing that made me like the C63 some more, especially
end
because
torque.
I did daily drive that car. Is it was a lot more fun to drive around normally because whenever you're just chilling, you can always just like floor it and you're sliding and you're doing hooligan stuff. Whereas like an E92 M3, I feel like you really have to be like romping on the car. And I think the DCT probably does help that. I've actually never driven a DCT car. I've only driven manual E92s.
DCT's
So it's
pretty
so
good.
hard to compare the two cars. I'm a BMW guy through and through. I love BMWs, and I normally would pick a BMW over Mercedes. But I just really have a soft spot for W204 C63s, which is funny because mine was literally horrible and it broke. and the dealership screwed me over on it. But I don't know. I like E92 M3s a lot, but to me, they like as great as that engine is, it feels gutless when you're driving it around normally. I'm not trying to discourage you around it because you get over that when you get to rev it out, and especially with the DCT, it's probably easier. But with like a manual car, I just always would find myself like in too high of a gear, and you have to like downshift. I don't know.
Yeah, I
It's a
mean,
great car,
my thing is, I've never been about like crazy. I mean, I enjoy the thrill of speed, but if it's just speed, and I know we're comparing, two cars that, will give you that feeling, but like, just thinking about when, okay, so allegedly, this is alleged. I've,
Yes. Give us the
in a certain, electric Mercedes vehicle, I did about like 150 miles an hour, allegedly.
Allegedly.
Yeah, on a Assetto Corsa.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And you just it feels like nothing. It literally feels like nothing, and it's like I would rather. And I'm going into this car, this E92 purchase, knowing it's not going to be a super fast car, but for me, that's not really what it's about. It's the fun factor, and
Yeah.
I think it does it for me.
Yeah.
I think
That's
it's just
fair.
really preference between those two cars because I think they're both great cars.
Miles, if
Yeah,
you could,
absolutely.
if you could like buy, let's say money were no option, you could buy any car. What would you buy? It would have to be one car. So like you only get the single. That's it. Like you could sell it and buy something else, but one car, you don't get a second car.
You can sell and buy something else.
And this,
No, but like I mean, you can't have like a daily and then your weekend
me
car. Like you get just this
Bugatti
one
Type
car.
Yeah.
57 Atlantic.
this is your daily. This is your daily. You still live in New Jersey. So you still have to drive it in winter.
No, I mean me living in New Jersey.
kidding.
Probably,
I'm just
so,
kidding.
yeah, no,
I live in Boston, so we can just dox ourselves.
That is a tough one. I mean, if money were no object, I mean, because you also have to think about how long do you want this car to not be taken from you by someone who, has a malicious intent, right?
Oh, no.
Because if I just say McLaren F1, realistically, how long is it going to be before, I run into trouble like trying to use that car
You
on
could
a
say
daily
McLaren
basis?
F1.
Yeah, you can
I
say
would
it because I would probably
I
say
would
that.
let you say McLaren F1 for sure.
I might say that too, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I mean, it would probably be a nightmare to drive,
Yeah.
like 60% of the time.
Yeah.
It's fine.
But McLaren F1, so
There's 3 seats. It's pretty practical.
Yeah, they got all
just-
the luggage compartments.
Yeah, you throw the groceries in like one of the seats next to you. You put like a passenger on the other one. Like you're good to go.
yeah. I mean, I'd probably have to say, if not, actually no, I'm gonna switch. I think Carrera GT.
Ooh,
Just
that's a
'cause
good
I
option.
think it's
That's a.
I think it's just the better car to me.
Fair enough.
I think it sounds better. It's not as practical. Has
sounds
one less seat.
Yeah, it's
I
less
think it
practical
sounds
somehow.
better. Yeah, and I mean it's probably harder to drive from what I've heard. I've heard just getting it going from like first gear is kind of tricky compared to like traditional manuals from what I've heard. But
They're probably somewhat equal in terms of drivability.
Yeah, the F1 can't.
McLaren F1 can't be a cakewalk for like
I'd say
an
they're-
inexperienced
They're
manual
both
driver.
probably death traps.
Yeah.
Imagine learning.
I
manual.
mean it's been proven that they're both death traps.
Shout out Rowan Atkinson
you
for
guys-
the views on that video.
Oh yeah. We did do a video about Rowan Atkinson crashing his. He must be one of the few people who's crashed his, and then he crashes twice, so that's extra impressive. But it can't be that easy to drive because he's a huge car guy. Maybe he's just a terrible driver, but who's to say? No offense, Rowan Atkinson, if you're somehow watching this, but probably not. But if you had to choose, that gives me kind of an answer to this question. But I'm curious what you're going to say. If you had to choose like a decade of cars that is the like golden age, the golden decade. So what is decade? 10-year period? Am I stupid?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, guys. Yeah. So what decade? I will go around, but Miles, you go first if you have your answer.
I mean, I'd have to say the first decade of 2000. I mean, you throw in cars like the Carrera GT, like just so many. That was just the age where you have tech that would be usable in modern day and like performance and like engines that are just you can't get it today. Like we had sedan V10s in sedans.
That is
I
cool.
completely agree. I would say the exact same thing. I'm totally with the early 2000s these days. It's just the best cars came out of that era. The last of the greats.
Yeah.
Still a toss sometimes. Like the 80s and 90s compete pretty hard too.
90s.
The 90s are really good.
Yeah.
They're not as, crazy, but like the F50, like that's a
Yeah.
crazy
Yeah.
car. Like there's just some wild cars from the 90s.
I think there are more cars that I personally love and that are high on my list total in the early 2000s, but I still go 90s for just the few gems that I really
That's fair.
want, And like there's something I've owned 5 cars from the 90s and there is something. In fact, I've owned 4 cars from 1995.
That's weird.
And yeah,
That's your
and
year.
like there's just some unexplainable feeling of 90s cars. They just feel like good. It feels like home to me. It's like they're like a bit sloppy and broken, but still like trying to get better, which is like a really fun combination, especially if you're learning to drive and learning beginning car control. Like, and then the sports cars from that era, like totally raw, bare bones, not even an attempt at navigation, like no attempt at technology. It was just vents and a manual transmission. I like that so much,
That's fair.
I don't care about the rattles, 2000s cars have rattles too.
Yeah.
Hey, I mean, 2020 cars have rattles.
true,
Like
yeah.
I was in Marquez's Plaid last week and sitting in the back seat trying to film something, and it was just creaking the whole time. I'm just like, what's the difference?
How do you like that job, by the way, if you're allowed to talk about it, like working with Marques with his YouTube channel and everything?
I mean, I think it's easily the most fun and interesting, and yet the probably easiest. Well, I don't want to say easiest, but I guess lowest intensity job I've ever had. I work with a team of like awesome people. I don't know if you're aware, but there's a team of like 14 of us.
That's crazy.
Two people on the team are still remote, but there's at least like 10 or 11 people in the office every day, and we have obviously a bunch of crazy stuff coming into the office every day, and just every day is something interesting. So
Kind of jealous.
It's a great
That's
job.
cool. And he has a car channel now too. I know he's been doing like car tech reviews, sort of like as a combination of things.
Yeah, and I mean that's part of the reason why I got the job. So I'm going to be helping out with that, and you may see my face on it.
Oh yeah,
in the
That's awesome.
cameo. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I also wanted to ask you. So a lot of your videos are obviously about like what car to buy at this price, or like things generally around that. So I want to ask you all a question that I've thought of. If you had $100,000 and you had to pick 2 cars, you need one car as a daily, 2 cars under
Threw a
100,000.
wrench in
That's
it
what makes
there.
it a little bit more little twist from a typical one. So you need something that you can drive every day, and then you need another car that's going to be whatever you think is like fun and exciting for yourself. But you only have $100,000, so put a little thought into it.
Do you have to does maintenance make a big impact? Or,
We don't have to worry about maintenance.
Oh, pff.
I can already
Thank
see
you.
some of you maybe blowing almost 90% of the budget on one car, and then 10 to the rest.
Clap to GT4 and
we're
Civic.
being realistic with something that it could be a fair deal and be this.
Okay, I'll
price,
give it to
right?
you. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you say something like really dumb,
No,
I'll get you on it. But
All right,
so whoever thinks they're ready first.
I got my daily for sure. I got it on lock.
All right, what's your daily?
A daily manual E60 M5.
Nice.
You can get
I
that for like
respect it.
25, 30. You can get a decent one.
Yeah.
I see
We're not-
why you asked the maintenance
Yeah,
question.
well,
Yeah.
I want one of those. I want one of those so badly. That's the car I'd take over the W204 or the 92 right now. I just need that car in my
Yeah.
life.
If only they weren't like literal bombs.
Yeah. I'll still buy one though.
My,
Yeah.
my dad actually bought an E63 M6 right after I left Chicago, and I am so desperate to get back home and just drive it.
Yeah, those are
and-
cool.
Those are crazy cars.
I have mine ready.
Well, let's let Will finish his.
Well-
Oh, yeah.
Oh, if you don't have your daily.
I mean, my other 70, it would go into a Porsche of some aspect.
Okay, so GT4.
It probably, I mean, if you could get a
can't.
GT4 for 70,
can't.
yeah.
No,
You
that's
can get a
not-
981 GTS. A Cayman GTS, that'd be good. A 997.2 Carrera GTS is, or not GTS, but like a 997.2 Carrera S manuals, right in that price range. Oh, like that probably would be my choice. Some sort of Porsche.
yeah.
Either a newer Cayman or a slightly older 911,
We have-
or a 997 turbo manual, something cool like that. I don't know.
Yeah. You stealing my idea. So my main car, I would probably say, like, good deal. Find a 997.2 C2S manual for 60 grand. Assume
65,
that.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's right around
60.
Okay.
And then
good deal.
And then right now, this would change if I had more time to ponder and think. But right now, all I'm thinking about is having a R32 GTR.
That's cool.
Like lightly
coming to
modified,
mind.
$40,000.
Which one's the daily? The 911?
No, the GTR is the daily.
Noah, the king of never having that practical a car.
And then, or other way around. They're both equal.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. The 911 is probably a better daily.
Whatever one's not in the shop is the daily.
Yeah, exactly.
They just switch
that's how
off
it
going
goes.
in.
All right, Miles.
Miles, what are you thinking?
So I mean, my pick is kind of similar to yours. I'm thinking for the daily, I would probably spend 20 on an E70 X5M.
Oh, that's a cool car.
Yeah, that is cool.
That is cool, actually.
Horrifically unreliable, but
Yeah.
you
No,
said
reliability-
Maintenance we
not
won't worry
concerned,
about.
So.
You got bread in the bank for that.
Right, and then I'd probably drop the other 80 on a 997 if I could get a .2
You could.
GTS.
For 80?
GTS for 80 is hard.
Hold on, I got
it.
GTS
Tough, yeah.
like a cheap
Yeah.
one is like 90s.
90s.
But you might be able to sneak one in there these days. The Porsche market's come down a little
Yeah.
bit. It's softened up like
So there is actually a 997 dot. I think it's a .2 GTS PDK that's been sitting in my Car Guru saved account for literally over a year. It's just been sitting, and it's like I think it's like 79
Where is
or
it?
80 grand, and no one's bought it.
I might have to go there.
I wanna say California. I'm not 100% sure. I could probably because I'm pretty sure it's still there. I could probably see
That's
right
a good
now.
deal. Those cars are hot right now.
Actually,
Yeah, manual is where
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
absolutely $100,000.
Have you seen Jake's?
Yeah, Jake's
Yeah.
is sick, but
Super
it's
nice PDK, yeah. Super nice car.
I was going to say, for me, if anyone was wondering.
No, yeah, definitely.
No, I don't care, man.
Just
Let's just move on.
Yeah, goddamn. 30K, the worst Hellcat ever, just a daily, because we don't care about tires or gas. I just want to like be an idiot.
That's fair.
Yeah.
We could be idiots together in our over
Bro,
500
you-
horsepower sedan.
Yeah.
Okay. Go.
What?
No, I was gonna say you're all about the Z06, and then you're now.
I want a
Other
Z06, but a
American
Z06 isn't a daily.
Hellcat, bro. I want one.
Hellcat's a better daily than a
Okay,
Z06.
okay, keep going.
Come on. But I would also then spend 70 on some 911.
Hey, we're all boring.
So,
yeah. So I mean, the consensus is 911.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's so perfect it's almost not fun to choose it. Like,
It
but
isn't
then
fun.
again, it's the
Yeah.
I
best.
wish I didn't have to sit here and say the word
911
997.2
every
C2S manual
Every time we
single
talk.
podcast episode. But unfortunately, I'm obligated to do that.
Yeah, and I'm sure when we open up the questions on Instagram, which we're about to do, that we'll probably be asked similar questions, and then we're gonna have to say the same answer.
911.
But all right, so let's dive into that. That'll be the last
Wait,
bit of the
I
night.
have one more question for Miles and Jackson both.
Okay.
What, like, how did you guys discover each other, and what is something that you like have learned from each other's pages? Because you have very similar pages, but you both have your own style, and both have your own like sort of niche within the niche.
That's fair. Miles, did you hate me at first? You're like, competition.
Absolutely not. I mean, I think we've all kind of been open about the fact that, at least the short form content piece of this, no one's, making real money off of this yet anyway. So it's like, what are we really competing for, honestly, So, I mean, and no, I absolutely did not. I thought it was just cool, honestly, to see someone in the space that it looked like they were my age or around my age and being consistent with it, and to see how you've blown up and skyrocketed past me and, the
not
past
far
like 2-3. Yeah. But to see how far you've like skyrocketed, like in the past 3 months has been really inspiring more than anything. And I think what I've learned from you more than anything is to just keep at it. While I've kind of, in the past like month or so coming into the new year, I've kind of like been like, let's just stop putting out a video every single day just to make sure there's something every single day, because that's kind of what I did in certain times doing tech reviews, and at that point, that's when I just get numb and jaded by everything. So I think just focusing on making content that I know is genuinely good, I think that's what got me to where I am at this point anyway. I certainly wouldn't be working for Marques if I hadn't had that mentality. So I think just focusing on that is great. But like I said, just seeing the way how consistent you've been and how organized and uh, just like just determined, I think to put out to content and really make it work has been truly inspiring, and especially because of your age, because I think it's safe to say none of us are doing it like the Matt Farahs and the Chris Harrises and the Tavareshes and the Hoovies. Where it's honestly just exciting to see this new generation of auto influencers come up, and to be a part of that with you is great.
Thank you. Yeah, that means a lot. Yeah, I honestly, it can be kind of a lonely career. I feel like making videos, especially, I don't have a team here. Really, I have Will, but he's not here every day, and it's like a lot of the same thing. And it's really nice to be able to talk to somebody else who's like as determined and as motivated as me, and works pretty much doing the same thing that I'm doing. I've learned honestly a lot. Like I tried to like look at all the people that we know who make videos and try to learn something from them. You taught me a great skill of like for the making short form to long form jump, like how to turn a short form video as an advertisement to the long form. I had no idea how to do that. I remember you helped me out with that. But yeah, it's just nice, like, being able to bounce ideas off one another. And like, you're a very smart guy. I think we are both quite motivated towards our goals, which is just extra motivating for me. Sometimes I don't feel as like it's not every day that I wake up like I'm gonna become the biggest automotive YouTuber, and it's nice to have like support from other people who are doing something similar. So
I also just want to say that I mean, before I like joined on editing Jackson's videos, I had already seen a lot of your content before, and what I liked about it a lot that differs from what we make is that a lot of yours is just kind of an opinion, especially with like the top picks. And I think that not only is that good for just like creating controversy and getting people commenting and getting engagement, but I also just think that like that's pretty cool that you just like didn't care about putting your opinion out there, because that's one of the things, at least for me, that like talking about cars is so difficult. Is like I have a lot of very controversial opinions, which you'll see if you watch other videos of our podcast. Like I tend to sometimes steer away, and not like I just said I want an E60 M5 and a 911 as my two cars, so it's not that far off of anyone else. But I do have a lot of weird opinions with cars, and I think it's cool that you just were always like there to like try to give people advice on what to buy, but you weren't afraid of like giving an opinion out about a car, even if a lot of people might disagree with that being the thing to buy. So I just thought that was cool. And I knew about your videos before I joined on Jackson. I'd already followed you, and I'd already watched a lot of your videos and seen a lot of your content. And so I thought now it's cool like getting to actually talk to you about it and getting behind the scenes. Just wanted to say that.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. And that, I think one of the things that can kind of be intimidating is especially seeing like how technically like knowledgeable and just experienced all of these other creators are, especially in the automotive scene, where it's like I think about this on a daily, especially now as that I'm hopping into more actual car reviews. Like I simply just haven't been around like physically, literally to drive and experience of all these other cars that a lot of like legacy creators have. And so that can kind of be intimidating to like put my own opinion out there for a lot of things. But something I've realized is that no one is really an authority on a certain topic. You kind of just have to make yourself
make it till you make
one,
it. Yeah.
you know?
Seem like you know what you're talking about when you're driving the car, and then people will believe you.
Yeah. I mean, I think especially for the something like this is dumb, but something about like the auto creators from the UK, like literally just their accent makes them like seem like
I've
they
been
know
say
more
anything.
about
I've been
the
seeing
car than-
myself have this problem. I'll be listening to a podcast and somebody's British on it, and I'm like, they are way more like
Yeah.
I believe them.
Yeah.
Whatever they're saying.
Dude, there's like I don't know if you've seen this guy. I can't remember his name, but he's like a photographer guy. He does short form for like photography, like Lightroom tips and editing tips and stuff. And his accent and like his mic setup and everything, his voice is just so like soothing and smart. Like you automatically listen to that guy when he says he just had to get those moody greens out of your phone. Like you're like, oh yeah, baby, I
get
want
those.
those moody greens. Give me those moody
Yeah.
greens.
All of
America,
them.
dude, us
Yeah.
Americans, we're so gullible to like accents for some reason. I
It's
always forget
crazy.
that we have an
Yeah.
accent.
They don't
when we
like
go
it though.
places.
They think we sound dumb.
yeah, well, we do.
Motor.
Yeah.
All right, let me pull up some questions from Instagram real quick, and we'll see if there's any good ones here. But we have a good one here, a couple good ones, but I like this one. Would you rather 4 slightly loose wheels, or not torque down engine and transmission mounts?
Bro, engine and
Yeah.
transmission mounts. You could baby that shit home all
Yeah.
day long. Bro, 4 loose wheel lug nuts. Like, all of the lug nuts are a bit loose.
like-
Those wheels are coming off, bro. Those wheels are coming off. Because
Yeah.
I can tell you firsthand, I've had loose wheel experience, and it's not good.
It's
I'm
definitely
just trying to determine, is this like this is like forever we always have this, or is this like I could go easily tighten down my
I
wheels
could just
over
stop
my
driving. And
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
forever,
right,
I'd still
the
take
wheels
the
are
mounts.
easier to fix, but if you're just like, if this is a scenario that like this happens to you on your 5-hour drive, obviously I'd take the tranny and
Yeah.
just drive
Change
slowly.
it.
You keep her
Motor
pinned
mounts.
so it doesn't.
no, you don't keep a pin.
You keep her low and slow.
Miles, what are you going with?
I mean, yeah, it's easily engine in transmission mounts. I mean, because especially the way I drive, yeah, those wheels are coming off. So
Yeah,
Hard turn.
I'm right there with you.
I was turning into Boston. There's like this tunnel in Boston. It's like an exit too, so it's like typical, like very kind of
Yeah, I know the
tight
exact.
turn.
I know exactly.
I
what
was
you're talking
cruising in the GTI, like really hard in the corner, and there was like a bump, so my car like
Oh, yeah.
jumped and shifted over an entire
Yeah.
lane.
Yeah.
If I had loose wheels at that
They would have
point,
shifted under your car.
yeah, it would have been game over.
The first time, I'll just quickly say, like, the first time I had a mishap like that, I was driving from San Francisco to LA in the Porsche in the 968, and my front right, like, it just started as a very faint, like, gunk, 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 gunk. And I was like, I don't know what that is, but I kept driving, and then it, like, got a bit worse. And then I went around, like, a long, sweeping turn, and it was like, and I, like, was lucky enough to pull over in time to realize that all those lug nuts were toasted. All my lug studs were, like, stripped because the wheel was just rumbling around on that. It was super scary, and I'm lucky I tightened it with a ratchet. I didn't have a torque wrench, but I had a ratchet and a socket, so I just tightened it up. But,
Surprised the nuts weren't completely shredded. that
I
you
mean,
could
they
get
didn't
them
fall
down.
off, so I
don't
could
want
just
shredded nuts.
manually rethread it.
Yeah, that's surprising.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, it was-
that's-
I've never had that happen,
That's
so
not good.
glad.
Here's the next one. So you have to pick turbo or supercharger, and why? Like, which is the one you choose? I think personally, I would have to go supercharger. It's the instant power delivery. Come on. You guys hate when I answer questions. It's like a running theme now that I always answer wrong for some reason. It's my personal opinion.
Okay, go.
But I love it.
Keep it going.
But yes, I would go with supercharger. Sure, turbos. There's more variability with a turbo, but supercharger. There's just like it's almost as if the car. It's more similar to natural aspiration. Like you get power throughout the entire power curve compared to a turbo, where you're most likely going to have lag unless the turbo is like not gigantic. I just like that it's a predictable power curve, and
Here's my thing. I like neither over either.
Okay, but this is a big
Right. But so then if I'm going to boost a car, I'm going to pick a turbo. Because I don't really, like, for me, superchargers are awesome for, like, super high horsepower V8 engines, like Corvettes specifically is what I'm thinking about in my head. But every single other boost application, I prefer with a turbo, honestly. And
What
even
about a V6?
I would still have I would have like a twin turbo V6.
Because I have a
or
supercharged V6.
Yeah. No,
I'm kidding,
I
I'm
like
kidding.
that engine.
I'm
Like,
kidding.
it obviously depends on the
I
car,
know.
but I'm a turbo guy for sure.
You, Miles, what do you think? I'll say what Noah said. So I'll
Yeah,
leave my
I mean,
bet.
I honestly have to agree with Jackson just because
Yes,
I feel
finally.
like if I feel like turbos I mean, it depends on the car, right? Because I mean, most cars have turbos nowadays, but if we're talking about a naturally aspirated car, especially one that sounds good, I feel like turbos just take away from that and the predictability, drivability of the car. I feel like, for example, so I mean, I've heard a bunch of supercharged like E90 M3s, for example, and I feel like they still sound more or less just like they do stock, slightly different, but on the outside, it pretty much sounds the same.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm also not sure if this is fact or not, but I feel like superchargers are more reliable in the aftermarket.
Honestly, I actually had this
sense.
conversation with someone else
Depends.
recently. It doesn't really, it's not the reliability that changes with them. You can just run a lot more boost with the turbo. If you're going to run the same amount of boost on a really high quality turbo and a really high quality supercharger, if you're running 10 pounds of boost on both, the reliability is going to be the exact same because the engine's going through the same stress. Normally, people that throw a supercharger on a car run less boost than people that throw a turbo on it, and the boost is more linear. So I would say that unless you're like buying a junk turbo, if you're buying a super high quality turbo and a super high quality supercharger, you're going to get the same reliability out of either. I would just say the people that tend to turbo a car over supercharge a car tend to just go
idiots.
crazier. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you're supercharging like a Corvette, you're going to throw it on there. Maybe 7-8 pounds of boost, a nice thing. You're gonna get 700-800 horsepower, but it'll be relaxed. Same with like an R8, like a supercharged R8. People are like, oh, it's so reliable. Turbo R8s aren't. Supercharged R8, you're making 800 horsepower. Turbo R8, you're making 1200 horsepower,
yeah.
1300 horsepower. So
I can see that's
I
a
think
good
the
point.
reliability changes more just with the amount of boost you're pushing through it rather than the actual system itself.
Definitely true.
No, yeah, I agree with that. And actually, so at Fluid, and I'm pretty sure the car is still there. So when I started, before I started doing stuff at Fluid, they had a pretty much one of the only, from what I know, maybe one or two other ones in the country, supercharged first gen V8 Audi R8s. And that car basically has never left the shop because I was watching, they had a Hamilton Collections Pagani in a few weeks ago, and I was just watching their video. They uploaded today, and I literally saw the R8 in the background. So it's like
Just a shop
that
car
is
now.
not yeah. It's basically a shop car that you can't drive. So
It's just a paperweight.
Yeah.
A really
I mean,
expensive
Yeah,
paperweight.
I think that's also just the application too. But there was a company, I can't think of the name, but they were a big Audi company, especially back in the day. And I remember they made a supercharger kit for the R8 V8s. That was it was pretty reputable. If the name comes to me, I'll bring it up. But I think it's on who puts the turbo and who puts the supercharger in, who tunes the car, who
Totally.
puts what pulley in what
Totally.
size turbo. So it's more application based than the actual device itself.
Yeah, it's definitely like the tune matters most of all. And it is also like harder to tune turbo cars. I'm not a tuner, but I would bet highly on tuners spending more time on turbo cars, especially high horsepower, very laggy cars. Because turbos can spool in a much less predictable manner than superchargers that are attached to the engine and spinning at the same RPM. But I also definitely think it's down to the crowd. Like, there are simply more turbocharged enthusiast cars that fit like a younger, stupider crowd than supercharged cars. Like, supercharged cars are like, if you think of supercharged cars, like, they're mostly pretty expensive.
Except for my car. It's like
luxury
the
car.
only one I can think
Yeah,
of.
and but it's still $25,000.
yeah, it's still expensive.
Like,
It's not like a 335i.
yeah, exactly. And like, you look at all the WRXs out there and like all the like turbo Hondas and stuff, and like people are just slapping turbo kits in there and tuning it, and it blows up. Like, it's definitely a different crowd, I think, primarily. But
That's fair.
yeah,
Should we-
next question.
Yeah, this will be our final question because we're running a little over an hour right now, but that's fine. I like this one, and Miles, I might know your answer to this a little bit, but what is the worst thing you've ever seen someone do to a vehicle? Miles, I feel like your answer is going to be debadging or like rebadging in some way because I know you're very anti rebadging, but
I mean, I'm not. it's not like I'm personally like emotionally affected by it. Most of the time, I think it's just funny, and it's usually how I can get a rise out of my viewers, especially like when I post one of those on my Instagram story versus when I just post one of my new shorts on my Instagram story. It's a total night and day. I'll usually have at least like 10 or 20% of my followers like view and share versus like maybe like 3 or 5% doing like a short I post. Uh I think so. There's actually this BRZ, the previous gen BRZ that I see almost every day when I go into the studio. Uh, and it's literally got one of the biggest wings on it I have ever
Oh, it's like a
seen. Like
battle arrow.
it's literally like the size of like a couch that could fit like 3 or 4 people, and it's like I honestly just want to see it drive just because it's always stationary every time I see it. Maybe it's because it doesn't work, but that's probably the most like egregious thing I've ever seen, like in person at
Got
least.
F1
Like I've
levels of
seen,
downforce.
yeah. I mean, it's I like for reference, it's probably like 1.5 times the size of like the new GTR 3RS wing. It is
That's
like it is
crazy.
Where do
insanely
you even
huge.
buy
Like
that?
Yeah.
eBay.
exactly. That's like
eBay big wang.
AliExpress.
yeah. So if I ever like catch this guy like going to his car, like in the car, we'll have to have a conversation. Just like where did you
Yell out the
find
window,
this?
you idiot!
No, no. Respectful conversation. I like the wing. Where'd you get it?
Nice wing.
You should get rid of it.
I want a wing like that on a Tesla.
No, you don't.
That'd be sick.
Those things are
I
designed
I was-
around their aerodynamics.
The worst thing I've ever seen someone do to a car, it's a little different. It's not modification, but I was with Noah.
I know what you're gonna say.
And we were at a gas station. And I don't know what I was doing. I think I was filling up, but Noah was
just
looking
both
at
in the car,
something. Yeah. And he just like points out to me this lady across the gas station outside her car. She's using the thing you're supposed to clean your windshield with, but she's covered her entire car in that fluid. And she's like scraping down the side of her car, like washing her car.
Like, mud and rocks were stuck
like
to the
salt.
side of her car.
Yeah.
Like she was like literally grinding it off of her paint. It was terrible.
We were just dying laughing the whole time, just watching her do it.
Actually, I will say, a close second is very similar. So there used to be this self like service car wash where I used to live in Chicago, and I was waiting for one of the stalls to open up. There was a guy in front of me, and he was using a snow wheel brush to wash his car.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
a lot of
Like,
people
the
do
whole
that.
thing.
Most people do that actually.
That brush
You'd
is there to
you'd
wash the
maybe
cars,
be
but it shouldn't
surprised
be.
to know, yeah, that brush is for paint.
No, but it wasn't the ones that they will normally supply at the car wash. It was literally
like
like
a wheel brush.
like a bristly.
Oh,
snow brush,
that's
like-
way worse.
Yeah,
Ah,
That is terrible.
That's
Yeah.
like inefficient too.
yeah, no, that's awful.
yeah.
Well, he
God.
definitely cleaned the dirt off, but he also cleaned his entire clear coat off the car.
my mom used a brush on my paint to get snow off one time.
Oh,
On my S3.
My aunt used a shovel one time, scratched her entire hood off, and then contacted me to see if I could paint correct it. I was like, I'm not touching that
Yeah.
thing. That's down to the bone.
Yeah.
You.
I think that might be the worst thing is my mom used a full size like broom on my S3 hood
floor
to get
broom.
the snow off, and I saw it and I was like, oh, like running out the window, and I was like, why are you doing that?
All right, I have mine. My father
Oh yeah.
is the worst car owner, and it was not always this way. Something switched where he does not
Snapped.
give a about his cars anymore. And like he has broken three anti-sway bars in the past like 2 years on both of his cars. And even back when he had his Audi S4, he broke one in like 2010. Like who breaks a sway bar?
What is
so
he
this guy
doing?
so my dad
I think
like
I know.
flies over speed bumps, like doesn't even pretends they're not there. Like it's not that he's trying to be cool or anything. He just like is a crazy driver. So he flies over speed bumps. He will like if he misses an exit, like he'll cut it close and like go over a like rounded center median. Like he doesn't care about any of that stuff. And like he'll go around full turns that are like bumpy turns and like be skipping down the corner, like the whole car moving side to side. It's crazy the way he drives. And he also doesn't wash his cars anymore, doesn't clean the inside. Like it pisses me off. So he takes the cake. He is the worst
that's
car
bad.
owner I've ever seen. Now, he used to wash his car like every week. He used to get new products all the time. Be like, "Ooh, I got this new wax." Like he'd do the old school like hand wax but he had an orbital buffer and stuff, and he taught me how to do all that stuff. And then he just they moved to California, and he just doesn't give a fuck. There's like there's literally like a full tree's worth of leaves in his shift boot area. Like
He doesn't
at
even
all
like
ti-
pick them up and
no,
throw them out.
not even at all.
It would only take a
I
second.
get in his car and there's like it's like there's like sap on the seat of the Miata. Like he has a
Oh.
Miata. He has an NB Miata that he's like, "Ooh, I want to buy this," and he buys it. And he takes care of it. Like there's just like tree gunk everywhere. He never has closed the top.
I was there when he bought it, and it was the weirdest transaction. He like went and he barely asked any questions. He just gave the guy the money. The guy gave him the keys, and I followed him in his car, but he was long gone. He
Yeah.
just bought this thing, and he's like literally taken off. It's crazy.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's the worst thing I've ever seen anyone do to
Yeah.
a car is break 3 sway
Destroy
bars
them.
in
That's
2
impressive.
years. Yeah.
It's like a record, honestly. But yeah, so I think we should probably wrap it up.
Yeah, why not?
But yeah, thank you for joining us on the podcast. We'll have more guests soon. Miles, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for using such high quality cameras over there. It looks great. It looks better than
Making
our
us look bad.
setup.
Yeah,
seriously.
But
Yeah, absolutely. This was fun. We definitely got to do this again.
sure.
Hopefully in person.
Yeah.
Dude, hopefully in person for sure. And regardless, again soon. It was awesome talking to you and
Yeah,
meeting
nice to
you
meet
for
you.
the first time. So
nice seeing you face to face. We haven't done that before. But yeah, guys, thank you so much, and we'll see you on the next one.